Thank you for joining us today on Raising Teacher Practice. My name is Matthew Murphy. I'll be moderating today's webinar. Just to go over the agenda with you, we're going to do brief introductions. We have some fine panelists in which we'll be able to hear their experiences, and then we'll do a Q&A and we'll talk about next steps. And just to frame today's conversation, we're here to talk about the story of the Diocese of Trenton and how they partnered with Eduscape and my Eduscape professional learning platform. Again, my name is Matthew Murphy. I just recently retired as a superintendent, and that is now why I look 15 years younger. I'm actually 82 years old. That's not a great picture. Erin is laughing at me right now. My young daughters believe I am misleading. I think they call it catfishing. But anyway, welcome everyone, and I do hope everyone is doing well. On the panel today, we have Dr. Vincent DePaul Schmidt, who's the superintendent of Catholic schools. We also have Bonnie Malecki, who is the assistant superintendent of Catholic schools for Trenton. And we have the wonderful Erin Saylor, who is the Director of Professional Development for Eduscape. So we're going to dive right into it, and we're going to hand it off to Vince.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, please raise your hand for the chat, whatever we can do to help explain things. I would be honored and happy to do. My diocese is not the world's biggest, but it's perfectly sized for us. We have 30 schools. We have approximately 1,000 teachers, and it's situated in the central part of New Jersey. There's 5 dioceses altogether in New Jersey, and we are the second largest behind the Archdiocese, which is in Newark. The question comes up, why did the diocese pursue this professional learning model? And to be honest with you, it kind of happened out of necessity. We did not have the world's greatest communication ability to our 1,000 teachers. So we originally were looking for a way to reach out to them, to be able to give them things that we thought the central office thought was important. It might have been a PD opportunity that they could go somewhere, a workshop, a class, or it could be something self-designed by the diocese that we thought was important for them. But we didn't really have a good way of distributing that and getting that out to our folks. So I actually talked to 6 different companies about what kind of platforms they either currently had that could be adapted to our needs, or would they be willing to help us design one for our needs. And we went to some big boys. We went to some of the bigger companies in this space. And many of them were kind of couldn't be bothered, or it was too big a deal, or I wanted too many, customizations of it or whatever for our purposes. But I figured if we're going to design it, why not design it to be absolutely what we needed, and still be, conform to what other dioceses may or may not want, need, or desire. So that's really why we did it. We went after the end goal, which was we wanted our teachers to be professionally trained, have great professional development available to them, and have it be in a situation where it was a real high rigor and standard. And Eduscape checked those boxes for us. That's why we did it. The other thing that I think is very important is that you understand our teachers are in our schools. We believe and hope and pray because they believe in our schools. Because God knows they're not getting, no teacher makes a whole lot of money. Catholic school teachers probably make even a little less than that. So if we could give them the PD to show them how much we support them, how much we love them, how much we wanted them to be a vibrant and vital part of our educational process, then we thought this would be a great addition to their pay and their benefits and what else. So we have in place opportunities for our teachers to get paid for getting more degrees or getting the next certification. But for the rank and file, apart from those degree seekers or certification seekers, we still wanted them to feel as if they were a part of constant learning, constant training, constant belief in lifelong learning. And that's where Eduscape really came into play for us. And that's why we chose to bring everybody and pull everybody together under this platform. It centralized everything we do. It offers great opportunities to kind of bridge what we do daily with long-term goals. And I think, again, the high level, the high quality, the high rigor of the PD that is in the Eduscape library on our behalf is really just fabulous. And I don't think any diocese in the country could ask for more or is able to give more to their teachers. And that's why we did it. What are the intended outcomes or goals? I kind of covered that in my long first answer. But we want the teachers to know that they're respected. We treat them as professionals. We expect them to, again, be lifelong learners, so they themselves represent well in our classes. And it's such a high level that we have now established in our diocese that everybody will strive for that. And we know that if our expectations are high, the teachers will reach them. So to me, that was really important. Another key factor of the Eduscape platform is we put our Danielson teacher observation model in it, and then we linked it. So we do our observations online within the Eduscape platform. And then obviously we have the post-review discussions, and we do all the things that you're supposed to do with your observations. But then Eduscape takes over in a good way and offers, based on what the scoring is in the Danielson framework, gives them recommendations. You scored this number, or you were in this level, or you were this is where you're strong. Here's PD to support that. Here's where you have area for growth. Here's where you could get better. And here's some PD to develop that as well. The PD that we have at our disposal, I suppose, is really threefold. The diocese can say, as the central office, we'd like you to learn more about a topic. It could be a global theme. It could be a specific theme for a particular subject area, or it could be a message from the bishop or myself for that matter. So there's diocesan levels that we can assign or put forth that teachers can participate in. The next level would be school-wide PD. The school is doing a book study. The school is doing work on their math across the board, across their school. A particular thing that the principal feels is important. School safety is obviously always one that comes up. So you can do a school, assigned level of professional development. But the third, and that's the most important in my mind, is self-directed. The teachers can say, I wish I knew more about X. I wish I knew more about this or that. And they go to the library at their convenience on their time and learn more about an area in which they feel as if they are could use some help and support and grow. Some of that can come from the Danielson observation tool. Some of it can be from what they experienced in class. We've got a couple of kids that I really need more behavior management. I really need to learn about PBIS. I really need to learn about, whatever the case may be. Or I'd like to be certified in a particular area, or qualified or credentialed in a certain area. You can get micro-credentialing and all kinds of things within the Eduscape library. So the outcomes and the goals of this are make our teachers want to learn more, and then support them in that pursuit. For me, I thought that was incredibly important as a diocesan office to provide that for our staff with all of our 30 schools, for all of our 1,000 teachers, so that they can truly become all that they can be and maximize their potential for our students. I think that's what my goals were for this and what my outcomes were. And we're very lucky.
That's great, Vince. And thank you for sharing that. And as a former superintendent myself, I love the connectedness between having data and allowing teachers to pursue what they're interested in. Having that central hub is something that's really lacking in all of our schools across the nation, which is we get data such from, for in your case, the Danielson model, and then you can assign PD. But I also love the fact, and you mentioned it, that they get to choose a path that they feel interested in or passionate about. And I have,
There's no limits. There's no limits as to
yeah,
what they can take. They can take the classes that are assigned, or they
right.
can take as many classes as they want. The library is open to them, and it's open 24 hours a day. So they literally have the ability to say, I want to learn more about whatever. There you go. It's there for you. It's
That's
a great resource. And again, if it's not going to take the place of a big, huge race, but it does take the place of them feeling as if they're isolated or on their own, or on an island. They can work in a cohort. They can work within members of their department. They can work within members of their universal staff. They can work with other members of other schools who teach religion or teach math or teach science. So they can really form the cohorts that are necessary for them to grow. And
and
Educape supports that in their
yeah.
plan.
I was just going to ask Erin, I believe in the platform, you can create those small professional learning communities that Vince was just referring to as they emerge. Is that correct?
Yeah. Being able to engage in that coursework as an individual or in a small group, and then take that learning beyond the actual course, have conversations, create communities of practice where people are asking questions, sharing products, working through problems together is really one of those kind of habits of learning that we are striving for to create lifelong learners in adults, especially within the profession of education. So those can be created, and those are some areas that we start to see pop up through the way that people interact with each other in the courses, and then also in our larger community as well.
That's great. What a feature to be able to customize the experience. Now I'm going to introduce Bonnie to just ask, how did this start? Like, how does it begin?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So honestly, after Dr. Schmidt, after he sought feedback and buy-in from some of the school leaders around the Educate platform, and everybody was ready to launch, it was my job to work with Erin to come up with, the how. How do we start that? And I think one of the major ways that we started it was a little bit around motivating the leadership to understand the benefit that this was going to be to their staff. And we even tied it in many of our discussions to teacher recruitment and retention. That when you talk to teachers about what they need and what they want to be happy in their workplace, the obvious answers of salary and things like that are brought up, but right below that are feeling supported with tools and resources and professional development that makes them better at their job and that they feel speaks to their professional practice. And so I was really excited by this platform because of how much autonomy it gave teachers to drive their own learning, and encouraged our leaders to think about it not just as like a professional development tool in a silo, but as a tool that was going to help with their major problem lately, which was teacher satisfaction, and teacher retention, and eventually recruitment and onboarding. So working with Educate was awesome. Erin was always available to answer questions, to make sure the platform met the needs of the diocese, building profiles that worked for Catholic schools, and we'll be talking about those profiles in a minute. And then we just, after Erin and I were comfortable, and Dr. Schmidt obviously approved, what Educate had built, we were ready to start doing some virtual professional development of our leaders, where we brought in Educate to talk to our principals, and in some cases their support staff, vice principals, deans, things like that, to introduce them to the platform, to make sure that they understood the goals of the platform. And like all things, we had people that were excited to dive in. We had people that are, a little technophobes, but we got it's easy. It's an easy platform to navigate, and that made it easy to get buy-in from our leadership. Once our leaders had some professional development, we also had some larger scale onboarding for faculty in the spring, where we had hundreds of teachers log in to learn how to complete their profiles, how to get onto the platform. And again, that was really easy to set up with Erin. We set some really doable kind of first goals. And as Dr. Schmidt mentioned in the beginning, one of the major goals was the communication and data collection vehicle for us in the central office to better understand who these 1,000 teachers were. And so we had them complete the profile. And as you can see in the image there are 3 little tabs to the profile. An overview, which talks about their professional background. It talks a little bit about the experience that they have in the classroom. Are they a K-8 teacher? Are they a music teacher? Which state certifications do they have? And then eventually we get to the Catholic School tab, which really helps us from a diocesan level make sure that we are getting all of our religion teachers the correct catechetical training, making sure that all of our faculty members have signed their Christian witness statements, and that we have a complete hub to gather that data. So the first step was fill out a profile. You can talk through somebody filling out their profile in under 10 minutes. And then the next step was we encouraged our teachers to kind of hunt through the Eduscape library and find one course that they were interested in. Again, reinforcing this idea that this is based upon what the teacher feels their practice needs to be developed in. And we got immediate positive feedback from teachers who were grateful for an opportunity to have this, really robust library that can help them tailor their growth and their experience. So that's how we started.
Yeah, what I heard a lot is that you had Eduscape by your side during the process. And
100%.
Yeah. And, with 1,000 teachers, to have that support is really, really important. As someone who's been in central office or was in central office, sometimes tech companies, they're very attentive, but once you sign that purchase order, you can't find them. It's kind of like my teenagers when it comes to, cleaning up the dinner. So how is it going?
It's going very well. We see we have over 1,000 staff and administrators that are officially logged in and creating their profiles, creating their accounts. We had dreams of getting to like 100% compliance. It's 1,000 people. That's a lot of people. We're at 96, so it's going really well. We have an A. We see obviously that we have more than 7,000 courses in progress. I want just to pause there for a minute. That's incredible. That's that's 7,000 different learning opportunities that our faculty is engaging in and with. And then we see the courses that have been completed and the hours that they're spending on the platform. I can also say that we've been holding office hours about once every 2 weeks for our principals, because again, not surprisingly, 30 schools, 30 different school leaders. We have some that have adapted to this, quickly and are all in and are already, using the platform, sort of high level users. And then we have, the more reluctant or hesitant, the ones that are needing a little bit more support as they onboard their staff, and having sort of a regular time where they can drop into a Zoom call, ask myself or Erin a question, find out the answers to some of the questions their faculty is bringing them. We don't feel abandoned in any way. And then we've started to also move from that initial step of profile completion and one course to supporting our principals and using the Danielson model of faculty evaluation in the platform. And then what happens is they fill out an evaluation. If you're familiar with the Danielson model, there's 4 domains. We actually have a Diocese of Trenton customized Danielson rubric that includes our Catholic elements. And Eduscape was able to customize the Danielson Danielson model that we use for those Catholic domains. So the rubric reflects those pieces of our mission. And a leader can go in, they can observe their teacher, they can fill out that rubric. It's the same, most of it is the same rubric that you would see in any Danielson tool. Then we have the added components of Catholicity. And then there's direct data that's given in each of those 4 domains that connects to learning courses. So this is what we've been asking faculty to do forever, which is data-driven instruction, right? Take a look at your students' data and then supplement your instruction and enrichment based on that data. So now we're talking to our teachers, we're going and we're saying, hey, you're a rock star at X, Y, and Z. A little bit of growth opportunity at A and B. And now Eduscape is saying, and here are the learning modules that connect to those areas for growth. So it's saying,
for you specifically,
yeah. So having done teacher observations for years, sometimes you're going in and you're saying, hey, this is what was great. Here's your opportunity for growth. Like, good luck to you. And now it's, here's your opportunity for growth. And here's a tool that directly aligns with that opportunity for growth that might be able to support you in best practices. And that feels so much more empowering as a leader to be able to provide a solution to the problem that you pointed out. And that was a really big part, I think, was missing in teacher feedback.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we've been working on now. We also have the ability at the diocesan level to see the number of Danielson evaluations that are completed per school, which is an accountability piece that we were lacking. We require our school leaders to use the Danielson evaluation tool. They, of course, would tell us they were using the Danielson evaluation tool faithfully. I'm sure that was true in many cases. I'm sure it wasn't true in all cases. And now we have the accountability of, great, Principal X, we can see that you've completed 42 evaluations already this year. That's awesome. And know that they're using that to drive the professional development of their faculty members.
That's great.
So the Diocesan Library, there's also an opportunity beyond the myriad courses that Eduscape offers on almost every angle of education. You can custom tailor pieces of learning. And the Life of Blessed Carlo Acutis is the patron saint of Catholic schools in the Diocese of Trenton. And so there's a little video that we encourage all of our onboarding faculty to watch to learn more about our patron, well, that blessed saint of the diocese. And we also had a recent redesign of our religion curriculum, and our assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction put together a little 15-minute webinar with questions and some accountability there on the new curriculum guidelines. And that was a requirement for all of our religion teachers to watch at the beginning of the year to make sure that they were aware of the new religion curriculum guidelines. So these were custom tailored courses that our diocese produced and were out on the platform for consumption by our 1,000 teachers.
Wow. So here's the question that I want to throw out there to Bonnie and Vince. Do you have any data, whether it's quantitative or qualitative, about how the staff are reacting to My Eduscape?
I have both qualitative and quantitative. Qualitatively, I have thank you emails, which I guess is also to some extent quantitative, depending upon how you want to use those metrics. But quantitatively, we have super users in the platform. One of the things that we do now is before we go in to do an observation on a school, I look up the school's Eduscape usage and the accountability pieces of how many of their faculty and staff's profiles are completed and how many of their faculty and staff are engaged in the platform. And that's a conversation we have with the school leader when we go on school visits. But I also look to see who are the top performing faculty members in the use of Eduscape. And I tell their principals, call them out. These are people that are engaging in the platform on their own time voluntarily. And the principals are also calling us and saying, we have quite a few faculty members that love to take these classes. And then we have ones that are, very willing in response to evaluations. And then, of course, people are not always enthusiastic about everything that you provide for them, but that's to be expected, I suppose.
I guess it's a little too early to see if it's helping with retention.
Practice. Oh, I think anything that improves teacher morale helps with retention. Correct. We don't have data that we can say this teacher is still in our school because of this program. But I think anything that it shows an investment, that's something Dr. Schmidt can speak to. The investment in your teachers in all levels is going to be a retention tool.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I get when I walk into schools and I walk into classrooms and I ask, how are you doing? Oh, pretty good. Okay, fine. What can we do for you? Give me more money. Okay, yeah, fine, great. Are you using it? And I immediately say, are you using Eduscape? Oh, I really like that thing. It really helps. I really feel like I'm getting something out of it, right? I want to take a class and now I have a way to do it. Or, and the principals that say, we had a teacher who was on the margins, and after the observation, they actually did what we asked them to do. They actually did the PD that was recommended. And that didn't happen before. We didn't have the ability to say to them, here's your scores, now go do something, and then have any way of knowing. So it was kind of all on the honor system, or maybe we actually sent them, so we paid for it, so we knew they went. But for the most part, it was the honor system. Now, and again, not that we want to be big brother. We don't want to like check on every teacher every day for what they're doing, but we can say, based on their Danielsons, you get 7,000 classes or courses in queue right now. I mean, that's amazing. 3,000 hours or whatever that said it was that we've already discussed, or content's already been absorbed. I mean, that's amazing to me. So I think these are all very, very good statistical numbers that show that it's a value, that people value it. And I think as it gets, here, as it's more ingrained in what we do, it'll just become the absolute go-to, as opposed to now it's kind of the outlier, like, I guess we got to do it, or maybe I'll look at it, or if I get time over a holiday. Now all the new teachers just know that this is what we do here. This is just how we do it. And, I think that'll continue to grow as teachers come on board.
That's wonderful. So what have you learned from the process, and how has it informed your strategy moving forward?
Well, I definitely can say that talking to teachers as they come in, we used Educape in the profile and the opportunities for professional development as one of the first things we talked about at teacher orientation this summer. And I feel like moving forward, really, especially now that the platform is in greater use in the schools, making sure that we front load the information that's there, making sure that they have an opportunity early on to get involved. And honestly, the biggest hurdles have just been, the ramp up to learning, making sure that the principals all understand, making sure that the teachers value this, as opposed to feeling like it's another thing on their plate, right? The whole goal is that this is a supportive tool that makes your job easier and not another thing on your plate. And I feel like the communication around that was good at the beginning, but we can fine tune that message, I think. Aaron?
From my perspective, I'm sorry, Aaron, you want to go?
No, please go, please.
From my perspective, what we learned is this didn't happen overnight. This wasn't like, 6 weeks ago, hey, let's start this Educate program. We've worked on this for almost 2 years now. And as like onboarding it, and we were talking about the design elements of it 6-9 months before that. So I've been here 4 years in the Diocese of Trenton, and the majority of my time here has been working in some capacity on this. And I wasn't so silly as to say, this is what the diocese thinks we ought to do, or this is what the superintendent thinks you must do. We formed a committee for this and said, what do we need? And we heard early on, teacher retention was an issue. Hiring new teachers was an issue. Where are we going to get teachers is an issue. So the whole issue that came around employment of our staff was a critical mover in doing this, in making sure that we could deliver to them good stuff. And then obviously I told you we went to 6 different companies, and who do we look at and what do we get and blah, blah, blah. But once we kind of narrowed it down and we had some options available to us, we went back to that committee, and we then made our selections through that process. Also, we onboarded in a very, very, to my mind, crazily slow, deliberate way. We did a very soft opening like they do to the casinos in Vegas in April. And we said, this is here. We'd like for you to do it. Why don't you dip your toe in the water, blah, blah. And we got some takers, and it was great. But we didn't, so it was available since April of this year. But really the hard opening was August, when the teachers came back for this current 23-24 school year. So we did this very, very deliberately. We did this very, very strategically. And because of that, with Aaron's guidance, because Aaron was smart enough to say, we can't do that by then. That date's impossible. That's not going to work. But we can do it by this date. And Educate, being a company of their word, hit all of the benchmark dates. And that alone was something that I expected? Yes. Did I really think would happen? Probably not. So Aaron has been, doing yeoman's work to make this come to light and come to pass. And anytime we say, based on usage, hey, this tab isn't showing me what I need, or we need more information here, we need more detail here, or we don't need this, or we ought to not use that. Aaron, can you help that? Yeah, I can probably have it done in my next week, and within 3 hours, it's done. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the responsiveness.
Don't make
Now,
promises you can't keep, Vince.
well, no, I mean, I'm not making promises she can't. My promises were out 2 weeks, and she came in way under schedule, way before schedule. So the responsiveness of this program is really what's been probably the most invigorating to say, hey, they can do it. Let's try something else. Let's make it. So this isn't the final project. I mean, this will be an ongoing. As soon as you think you got it right, something else will pop up. You know, I'm sure this is V1 of V7 4 years from now. But having said that, it's always going to evolve, and it's always going to get better and better and better. And for me, that's very, very exciting, because it's kind of formed our strategy on how to roll it out and what our expectations could therefore be on our teachers and on our school leaders. And that's ultimately what this is all about, is not making managers out of our school leaders, but making true leaders out of them, and having them lead the discussion and lead the direction for their schools based on the support that we've given them to be able to run their schools operationally in a very, very vibrant, vigorous way.
I saw a question in the chat about whether or not this would replace in-person PD. Absolutely not, in my mind. I have to say, first of all, I'm kind of like a PD nerd. I've always liked professional development. I know some people don't. But I feel like there's like multi-tiers. You should still be bringing in some, like, as a school leader, as a site leader, whole school, professional development in some area. Almost inevitably, though, that, isolate somebody who doesn't necessarily connect with that, PD, depending upon what it is. I still highly recommend finding professional development opportunities to send your staff to out offsite in person, if you can. I view this from like the teacher lens as the differentiated instruction piece, right? You have your whole class instruction, you have your whole school instruction. Well, how are you meeting the needs of that individual learner, right? That's the language we would learn using the classroom. How are you meeting the needs of that individual teacher, that they are getting specifically PD on the areas that they are interested in, and also the areas that you've identified growth opportunities. But no, I would never say personally that this replaces in-person PD. It's supplemental and enrichment.
Absolutely. I completely concur.
So at Eduscape here, we at our mission at our core is really to unlock the potential of educators. So being able to find a partner like the Diocese of Trenton who have similarly aligned goals. We've learned a lot, because really, in order to create that self-directed learning, if you think about kind of the most autonomous person, that doesn't happen overnight, like everybody's saying. We really had to understand what motivates adult learners, what are the pain points in education that they need to learn around. So our team of educators had been building out this process to be able to engage people in self-directed learning. And we've learned a lot through the process about the role of leaders and how important they really are in achieving that goal. So through the work that you saw with the self-assessment and the data and the recommended learning, we really want to elevate the leaders of schools as really strong mentors for staff rather. So being able to, like Bonnie said, give really actionable feedback, be able to have that recommended learning where there's a really trusting relationship and respected relationship between educator and leader, and seeing a leader as a mentor, and that mentor being able to push an educator further in their practice so they can meet the needs of their students. So we've really been thinking about, and working with the leaders of the Diocese of Trenton to be able to say, from the diocesan leadership to the school leadership, to say, what is the type of data that helps you understand where teachers are at? What's the type of information that's needed to be able to explain really concrete and actionable next steps? So with that work, I think we've really realized just how important it is to be able to give, to complete that cycle between, setting clear goals, whether that's a goal for myself or a goal I've done in combination with leadership. And just to the question in the chat about, does this replace any other PD? So we really believe as a professional learning organization about the power of blended models, being able to meet learners at different areas of their life, of their practice, of their engagement levels. So for example, we were working with a couple schools within the diocese around STEM instruction. So we actually deliver in-person PD, and they're able to take courses online to supplement and reinforce and that information that we're doing. They have their materials all housed within one portal. So it really creates this all-in-one kind of cohesive place for people to be able to learn and connect the dots between, this is the feedback I'm getting from my administration, and here's what I'm learning in PD, and here's how those goals really are united. So I know that every action I'm taking is really mindful and driven towards just being a stronger teacher, rather than looking at professional learning in these isolated moments that are had across a variety of topics, and really how do they go together. So I think for me is working in partnership with the diocese, it's really elevated. It was not a missing part of our cycle, but one that we've incredibly enhanced was the ability to elevate coaches and mentors with the functionality that's there.
Wonderful. So the question that I think a moderator must ask is there anything you would have done differently?
I have something. So it's not necessarily something that I would do differently. It's a mindset I would have understood better at the beginning. And that is, you can get caught up, especially from the leadership level, around compliance, right? Like what percentage of your staff is done this and how many people have done that. And obviously there's an importance to accountability, right? If we're making something a part of a professional practice, then we also have to have a component where we check to make sure that that professional practice, is occurring. But one of the things that Erin would really bring home to me when we were having a conversation, and it wasn't to deny that accountability is important, but it was about, the entire point of Eduscape is to drive the inherent motivation of all of our leaders to seek out their own professional goals. So starting the conversation and the around how teachers know what they're good at and teachers know what they're not strong in. Like I always used to say, I can go in and evaluate you, but you could fill out this evaluation in many cases better than I could, because you're every day you're in there, what tools are strong and what tools are weak. So teachers know what they want help in. And that's where I think we see the super users developing, is these are the people that are very self-aware and they're saying, I need this, I've been looking for an answer to this. Let me take this class. And they're giving feedback that the education is really robust. We haven't even really talked about that once a teacher selects to take a course, the course is helping. And that's the second step, right? Anybody can say that they deliver professional development, and you can sign up and but did it change your practice? And the teachers are saying that it does. So I think my point is, because Dr. Schmidt did have very logistical concerns in the beginning that needed to be met, we were approaching this from a very logistical lens. And I think that it would, like, if we were kind of the guinea pig diocese, if we were coming at this fresh, I would not be coming at it with a logistical lens. I'd be coming at it from like a motivational lens, from that retention lens, from that lens of this should be inspiring. And in addition, it should help us with some housekeeping, right? And I think we started with, the housekeeping. Oh, P.S., this is inspiring. And I feel like we could have communicated differently. And I would encourage the next round of people to communicate in a different order. I think it would make the communication more seamless.
Yeah, I think we've learned to tell that story better too, that it's not so much compliance, it's accountability, and accountability from a supportive lens of how people grow. And from the team at the diocesan office to the school leaderships to the staff, how each can really do their role to the fullest of the capacity and to support students, because they have the information and the collaboration tools available to them now as well.
And part of that is I'm extremely excitable. I'm very hype oriented. So I could walk into a principal's meeting or a teacher's meeting and say, "Oh, this is the greatest thing you're going to love about it." And they would have tuned me out after about 30 seconds thinking it was infomercial. So I was very much conscious of the fact of being deliberate with it, following the folks that were giving me input from my committee, following the input from Erin and from Alex, who's the owner of the company, and following again, from Bonnie, kind of the slow down, Captain, you're going too fast here, relax. So I started focusing on those things that were more accountable. And so now I guess the goal would be, where do we find the happy medium, between the excitability and the hype of it. And now that we know it's as great as it is, it's much easier to have truthful hype as opposed to dreaming hype. We know this works. It's not just pie in the sky, and still have that accountability factor. Not Big Brother. I said that before, and I'll say it again. We're not trying to be Big Brother to our principals or to our teachers, but just showing them what it means to be professional in this space, because that's the thing that I think Catholic school teachers sometimes feel somewhat maligned, because they don't teach in the public schools getting the biggest money. So they feel like they're sometimes second class, which is unfortunate, because they're not. In fact, they do more. So I think they're beyond first class. They're first class plus, but they don't think that way sometimes. I don't think they internally feel that way. So this is a chance for me to allow our teachers to truly feel embraced and feel supported and feel as if they're being treated as professionals, not afterthoughts or just rank and file. We really are trying to impress upon them how important they are to our mission, how important is what they do every single day, and that this will help them and support them in being all that they can be in that space.
And the hype is really what I'm seeing is coming from your own school leaders as well. Now, when we meet in office hours, I see a level of true ownership of this cycle and sharing with each other, where they're norming how they give feedback, how they interpret the rubric. They collaborate on and share with each other. Are you requiring? Are you creating structured choice? And they are really they're the people that I interface with almost most now, because they're creating these habits within themselves, within their cohort of leaders, that they are then transferring this work in their leadership to their staff. So that has been something that has been a real joy to watch, and not a surprise, but I think really amazing to see. We talk about developing these habits, but to see it not just in cold numbers, but to see the way that people interact with each other and the way they talk about it and then talk about their work has shifted anecdotally as well.
I think another point that's, I think, really important to mention at this stage is how much easier this ultimately will be for school principals and school teachers to get what it is they need to be successful. Instead of having to do an observation in a different platform and then try to, comb through letters that you get on your desk about PD offerings, or researching where the PD is available, or finding out where you have to send people, or how you're going to fund it, or how you're going to pay for it, or give them the time off, or get subs, blah, blah, blah. It's all one stop. It's right here. So I think anything we can do to not only support our teachers in terms of offering them opportunity, but also supporting our leaders and teachers in terms of making it easy. This is an incredibly easy, much easier platform to use than what they had to do up until this point. We've streamlined things down to the point of it being, simple. I hate to say it, but it's simple to do what it is we're asking them to do now, which is a big benefit for all involved. Myself, Bonnie, the school principals, and the teachers themselves.
But I think that what you're said there too, Dr. Schmidt, is that we've made some of the logistics, well, I just gave Aaron have made it so much simpler to execute, that now they have the time and energy to go deeper into that coaching. And even, as Aaron said, our leaders are talking differently about the purpose of evaluation, which we all know since the dawn of time. The purpose of evaluation has been to coach better practice, not to rate and punish. And that is one thing that I would say we need to keep a watch on. It has not been a problem yet, but we talk about it all the time, is when you are offering the recommended professional development, it cannot be from a standpoint of punishment.
It's not a gotcha moment.
Right. No, and it's not a now you have to do, and one of the ways, just practically speaking, that we have suggested that the leaders handle that is when they enter their Danielson evaluations and they get a series of recommended professional development, that's where the conversation around autonomy happens. And you say to the leader, or excuse me, you say to the faculty member, based upon what I saw, here are some things that are recommended. What's the most interesting to you? why, like, and that's where you get the combination, the double hit of the data-driven, feedback, but still autonomy and ownership around what you want to pursue.
The ownership is critical.
Wonderful. You mentioned a lot of what's coming up, and but is there anything specifically that you want to just mention to our audience about what's next?
I would like to see, and we've talked about this in broad strokes, and I hope Erin doesn't shut us down, or close the conversation. She won't. I'm kidding. Is a mobile app for this, to be able to do this while you're picking your kids up in after school if you're a teacher, the ability to do it on weekends, the ability to do it while you're traveling, and do your PD and see it right there in front of you. It's in your hand. You can do it wherever you are. After when the kids are getting ready for bed, before you tuck them in, you can finish up that thing you started at the classroom by doing it at home. The availability of this, and again, we couldn't have this conversation 15 years ago or even 10 years ago. Now the availability of this power, and it truly is a power for the schools and for the schools leadership and for the schools educators to have the power of all of this development literally in the palm of their hand. That's going to be in version 2.0 or 2.5 or 3. I don't know when it's coming, but it's not going to be long, and that's going to be a tremendous tool for the teachers to have at their disposal.
And to kind of mirror something that Dr. Schmidt said, I think where we have work in communication, but also where we have to invite feedback is, we know that teachers feel and are working all the time everywhere. And while I would love to see a mobile app that would let them complete their PD while they're waiting in line to pick up their kid, I also want them to ultimately see this as time saving, that they are able to, one of the examples that we used at a teacher orientation was, you're going to search up that idea for a lesson plan anyway, and there's resources on my Eduscape that can supplement some planning. You're going to be looking for, I can't wrap my brain around this situation that's happening in the classroom. I have a student that's having this issue, and you're going to be poring over internet sources anyway, trying to solve your problem. Go right here. There's quality vetted material that's going to support you, and you can quit the searching. And I think that I want to make it user friendly, but I also want to really be able to authentically portray this tool as something that is making teaching and leading easier and not more complicated. Because we all know that in every web space everywhere, nobody in education would like something else to do. They would like things to be easier and faster. And ultimately, I think that this is what this will be. And we have work on communicating that and training our teachers and our leadership to see it that way, to be leveraging it that way.
That's wonderful. So as we wrap up, because we've been on for close to an hour, we've addressed some of the questions. I do want to take this opportunity to thank Erin, Bonnie, and Vince. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing the experience. My Eduscape is a very powerful platform. I know that because 35 plus years of being in education, I have yet to see, and Vince and Bonnie have spoken about this, a platform in which everything is integrated and very purposeful and intentional. So if you're interested in learning more about it, please contact Dave Benoit. His contact information is there. And I want to wish everyone on this call a Merry Christmas and a blessed 2024 New Year. I wish you and your family and friends nothing but good news and good health. And have a wonderful day, everyone.